Welcome, one and all, to the show. Wired up, fired up, and absolutely ready to go. Episode 44 of BlueTruth, New York Rangers talk with Brian Attard, powered by the Sportsbox Network. If you are catching us live for the first time, like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Those of you who have joined tonight's live stream, thank you for watching it live. If you're watching the YouTube replay, thank you for that as well. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Maybe you'll catch one of the live streams one of these nights. Tonight is Tuesday, October the 8th. And as I share the show to a bunch of Rangers groups to spread the good news of BlueTruth all around the interwebs, in less than 24 hours from this live stream, the puck will officially drop on the 2024-2025 season for our beloved New York Rangers as they visit their rival Pittsburgh Penguins. This time of year is always one of anticipation, excitement, some healthy apprehension, if you ask me. A wide range of emotions, really. It is a new start. It's a new chapter. However this story ends, this is where it begins. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, so get comfortable. There's a lot to talk about as the season starts tomorrow. We'll preview, obviously, the season. We will talk about the second year under Peter Laviolette with essentially the same roster, why that can be a good thing and a bad thing. We will talk about this permeating undercurrent through the fan base, at least on social media with whom I interact with and see comments from, about how basically everybody on the team is overpaid and where that comes from and really what's being said when someone says that. I will give you 5 reasons why I am bullish on the Rangers this season. We'll take a look at the opening night roster, line combinations, defensive pairs, really an overall just top-down breakdown of what it'll look like. We'll also look at the betting odds as far as where the Rangers will finish as a team, where some of the individual numbers lie. So really, there is a lot to get to on the eve of the night when the world begins again. I'm going to read some of the comments coming in. Let's see here. Dimitri, let's go Rangers. I set an alarm for this one. Yes, it's my buddy. Love you, bud. Dean, let's go. Michael Faris, hey, Brian, let's get this season started. Let's go Rangers. Brian Foster would take the 11 million over 8 years. Yeah, I would too. Gunner, what's up, brother? Matt, Ja Greco, who we talk to a lot with the same cast. Yes, it is. Already sweating. Let's go Rangers. They don't earn the pay they are getting. Okay. Then, well, by definition, doesn't that mean they're overpaid? We'll talk. Anyway, no worries. We have a lot to get to tonight, and we will. So, second verse, same as the first, year 2 under Peter Laviolette. If we think back to this time last season, one of the concerns that many of us had was that the Rangers would get off to a slow start. Many of us, myself included, felt there would be a bit of an adjustment period from going from a coach like Gerard Gallant, who had no system, no structure, no general ability to be a tactician whatsoever, to Peter Laviolette, who did. We thought it was likely that players would need some time to learn the systems to play them effectively. The Rangers proceeded to end October last year with a record of 7-2. They went on in November to finish 16-4-1. The concern that we had that they would need time to adjust, frankly, never materialized. From that standpoint, now that they're in the second year of the system, in the second year of this coaching staff, which brought back everyone, which is great, by the way, they came into camp knowing full well from the jump what's expected of them, what their roles are, and how to play the way this coach and his staff wants them to play. So that layer of uncertainty is not there this year. The results show that it didn't seem to bother them at all last year, but it's not there this year whatsoever. If they do get off to a slow start, they really don't have that built-in excuse in their back pocket. All you hear from anybody who opens their mouth is how they were ready to get back on the ice in June, how they want to pick up where they left off last year, and this player was doing this, and it all sounds great. Great. It sounds like they're motivated. We'll see what the results show. The concern would be if the messaging starts to age a bit, especially with a veteran roster. You hear that the practices are fresh, that they're competing with each other the way they did last year. So that doesn't seem to be an issue at the moment. Good. We talked at length last episode about how we were all expecting this off-season of change and that they weren't going to run it back with the same group that wasn't able to win last year, and that this roster would see some major changes. Well, other than Mika Zibanejad's right wing, the third pair left defense, and a couple of fourth line spots, this is the same team. We didn't get the Jacob Trouba removal that I wanted or the big name trade some of you wanted. We got the removal of Barclay Goodrow, which was a major positive. I'm happy about that. Some people were not. More on that in a bit. But for whatever reason, and I'm not going to go into the Trouba stuff too deeply because it angers me immensely, and I'm trying my best to stay as even keel as I can tonight. So we're not going to go deep into that. But this roster is essentially the same as it was last year. There is good and bad to that. On the good side, continuity is something that can be very valuable. The players know the system. The players know each other. There shouldn't be any major surprises. Other than Riley Smith, there's no new face in the top 9. The players who have grown a rapport playing with each other will continue that for the most part. The Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere line, this team's true number 1 line, is back intact with a year under their belt, playing with each other. There's no adjustment period. I think that's my message tonight as far as all of this goes, is that there's no adjustment period. They're the same team as last year. For better or for worse, they're the same team as last year. As I said, there is good to that. There's also bad to that. This team has not been good at 5-on-5. Not breaking news on this show. It's been a few years of the same as far as that goes. The team's relative success, and I do say relative success because they have won absolutely nothing. Success is measured by the big trophy at the end. But their relative success comes off the backs of an excellent power play and an excellent goaltender. If one of those isn't working, the team struggles. More on that in a bit too. I said a couple of times last year on this show, more so in the postseason, as the playoffs went on, that it was really a waste of time to expect these players to be something that they're not. And I think that that's an important statement to make and to internalize right now, because if you're going to complain that Chris Kreider should be more physical or Adam Fox should be more physical or fill in the blank, it's not logical. Chris Kreider has been with this team since the spring of 2012. And at no point has he ever been this overly physical player. But every year, people complain about him not being physical enough. Chris Kreider will be 34 at the end of April. Do you think maybe, just maybe, this is who he is as a player? Maybe, just maybe, he's not going to suddenly become a wrecking ball, no matter how much you complain about it. I've sat here on this show and I've gone through my fair share of tirades about Jacob Trouba and his contract and how guys who make the money he makes are generally top-end point producers. And he's not one, and that's a problem. That isn't me saying Trouba should become a top point producer. It's not who he is. He may have been on a trajectory to be one when they traded for him and gave him this contract. But he's not going to suddenly morph into Adam Fox because I complain about it. He is who he is. My complaint primarily is that what he makes compared to what he is and the role he plays has become completely out of whack and he shouldn't be here. It's not that he's not a point producer, because I'd be asking him to be something that he's not. Adam Fox. People love to complain about Adam Fox not being a good enough defensive defenseman. Adam Fox has essentially been a point per game defenseman over the last 3 seasons. He has been no lower than 8th in the league in points by a defenseman each of the last 3 seasons. Raw numbers, it didn't account for games played. He's missed a couple games too. People complain he's not a good enough defensive defenseman. As if the Norris Trophy isn't handed out annually to a point producer. He's never going to be Ryan Lindgren. That's not who he is. Ryan Lindgren's never going to be Adam Fox. That's not who he is. Plenty of other examples, but there's just a few to illustrate the case. So the bad part of bringing back basically the same roster is whatever deficiencies you thought they had last year, they still have now. Their inability to move out $8 million on their defense, which I said I will not dive deeply into tonight, and I will not, is a big reason why they didn't address those deficiencies. But having said that, this idea that the Rangers can't pay Shesterkin because of a cap crunch, in my opinion, is a little misguided. This year, they're paying approximately $13.56 million to a starting goalie and a bottom pair defenseman. And next year, they will pay less than that for a starting goalie and a bottom pair defenseman. They will be fine. So, on the good side, they have continuity. On the bad side, they have continuity. Your predisposition towards the players on the roster likely dictates whether you think the continuity is good or bad. Lots of comments coming in. Let's see. Peter, how are you? Anthony, let's go Rangers. Gio, let's go Rangers. They are older and more injuries. Brian, keys to the season, moving Trouba between now and the deadline, filling the same holes we had at the deadline last year. Smith isn't likely going to be that kind of player. Darren, new name to the show. Watching the Panthers are still loaded. We have big problems. So what angers fans more, says James, the Trouba ordeal or the Igor contractual situation? We'll talk about that. James says it's all power play. Mark Scotty, the Rangers should lose out since they can't win the Stanley Cup. Well, it's not that they can't win the Stanley Cup. I mean, we're getting close to that mark. In a couple of years, that's going to be what's going to happen. They're going to need to do that, but we're not there as of right now. It's very possible that the Trouba just had a bad season last year and can bounce back, especially if there are other good defensemen to hide him. But yes, the $8 million will hurt. It is what it is at this point. Garth Patrick, my buddy from the Sports Box. In today's day and age, you could really argue a good offensive defenseman is better and more valuable. Of course you can, Garth. That is correct. Nick Arena, Brian, what's up? What's up, man? How you doing? Let's get after that cup. Larry Morgan, so happy the NHL is back, baby. Let's go. Okay. So, as I mentioned, the continuity can be good or bad depending on your predisposition just how you break down the players on the roster. But your predisposition also towards the players on the roster leads into a discussion that I think, frankly, is worth having as we embark on a new season. BlueTruth does a lot of interacting with people on social media, primarily on Facebook. Side note, while I'm on the topic, if you're looking for a good Rangers Facebook group to get into, I highly recommend New York Rangers #NYR. The link was shared on the page a couple days ago, led by a group of just phenomenal Rangers fans who I've gotten to know pretty well over the last few years. Paulie, diehard, as you're going to find, did a super, super job of building up a group that's closing in almost 25,000 members. No ads for knockoff jerseys or phishing links or BS. It's a great group, but neither here nor there. Anyway. As I said, lots of interacting with Rangers fans on social media. As you know, I have my takes on people being completely out of touch with the business side of this game. The CBA, the salary cap, a bunch of things that generally interest me, but for some, not their cup of tea. Okay. But it feels to me like Rangers fans just think everyone's overpaid. And I don't quite get that mentality. But I think I've gotten to some of the root cause about this. The contract discussion around Igor Shesterkin has really shed some light to me on where a lot of this fan base is mentally. And there's similar themes with Chris Kreider, Adam Fox, Artemi Panarin, among others, especially when you compare and contrast that to what this fan base thinks about guys like Jacob Trouba and Barclay Goodrow. We touched on this last episode, but I think it bears some repeating since, as we know, Shesterkin has not signed. There are people who will tell you that Igor Shesterkin should make $8 million a year, $9 million a year, maybe even $10 million a year, but no more. They will tell you, and I saw a lot of this today, that he's being greedy, that the team can't afford more, and that the team will just collapse under the weight of a large goalie contract the way they did under Henrik Lundqvist. And despite every ounce of contrary evidence, namely the bunch of complete ass clowns the Rangers signed over the years to large contracts at the top of the free agent market that we outlined last show, despite having Henrik Lundqvist on the roster. And this idea that annual salary is not in a vacuum, but rather a moment in time, is a percentage of cap, which goes up every year, unless there's a global pandemic that causes a flat cap. They just stick to their guns. There are people who will tell you that Chris Kreider is overpaid. They think Kreider, who makes $6.5 million a year, is overpaid for his role. These are the same people, ironically enough, who think Kreider isn't physical enough and should go blow people up out there like a wrecking ball. And they would sacrifice him scoring goals to have him go blow people up like a wrecking ball. These are people who say, oh, well, he scores goals because he tips them in and he's not that good. As if we care how the goals are scored, as long as they're scored. Do tipped goals count less? That'd be news to me. They don't ask how, they ask how many. And despite every ounce of contrary evidence, namely that on top of being one of the team's primary penalty killers, he scored 39 goals last year for that $6.5 million, which is a better value per goal than Austin Matthews is, who scored 69 goals last year. They just stick to their guns. There are people who will tell you that Adam Fox is overpaid. They will tell you that he's not a good defenseman. Point blank, end of story. He doesn't hit people, so he stinks. And despite every ounce of contrary evidence, namely that he's essentially a point-per-game defenseman over the last 3 seasons, he's won a Norris Trophy as the league's best defenseman, he is always in the discussion for another one, they just stick to their guns. I'm not even going to go that deep on Panarin, who is by a mile the best free agent signing in the history of this franchise, because it's just repetitive. But don't worry, he's overpaid too, because, he doesn't hit anyone. He just scores goals. But then you see these same people talk about how Barclay Goodrow and his whopping 4 goals in 80 games last season, they had to keep him. He was a sandpaper guy. Totally worth $3.6 million for that. They can't believe the Rangers got rid of him. They're sure going to miss that guy. Trouba. Oh, Brian, you're so wrong about Trouba. He intimidates the other team. He lays people out. Totally worth $8 million a year for that. Provides leadership. Provides grit. Through a helmet. These are just empty buzzwords with no value to rationalize just an abysmal cap hit. Let me clue you in on something. When someone uses words like leadership and sandpaper and grit and physical play as a reason why someone's a good player, it's code for the guy can't play. They just don't have anything else they can say, and they want to say he's good. So, what I had been able to put together from this is that bluntly, there is a sizable sect of this fan base that hates star players. They just hate skill players. People who think that Jacob Trouba is worth $8 million and Igor Shesterkin isn't worth $12 million are just not serious people. People who think Barclay Goodrow is worth $3.6 million and Chris Kreider isn't worth, I'm sorry, yeah, I got my numbers on. Goodrow worth 3.6 and Chris Kreider isn't worth $6.5 million. These are not serious people. And I don't know if some people in this fan base fell in love with the Broad Street Bully era of the Flyers in 74 and 75 before my time and saw them win cups by beating people up. And they want to see the Rangers knock people around. But as it turns out, the team that scores the most goals in a game is deemed to be the winner. I don't dislike Matt Rempe in theory, but he has to show he can play a little bit to stay on this team and contribute. Going out there just to get into a fight every other game isn't really all that useful. And frankly, it's dangerous to his health. But this elicits this visceral reaction from a sect of this fan base. And I think you draw those lines to people who will flat out tell you that stars are overpaid and grinders aren't. Why does this fan base hate star players? I have no idea. Is it that the team hasn't won, so they blame the stars? Okay, I can wrap my head around that in theory, but play this game with me. If Adam Fox's name wasn't Adam Fox, and it was Brian Leetch, in today's game, with the team's recent results, how would he be viewed? Leetch's game was very cerebral, brilliant mind, the way he saw the game. I'm not saying Adam Fox is Brian Leetch, but the correlations are there from a stylistic standpoint as to how they play. How would Brian Leetch be discussed today? People want to say that Igor Shesterkin is going to get overpaid no matter what. And they love to say that Hank was overrated. What if Mike Richter didn't win in 94? How would he be viewed? And I don't know that anybody would really say that Richter was an overall better goalie than Lundqvist. Hardware aside, Richter got the hardware, though, so he's on the forever pedestal. And I get that. I don't disagree with the praise on Mike Richter. I just don't think it's a zero-sum game. The point that I am making here is that probably just because the team hasn't won, the star players are generally hated on by a portion of the fan base. Comments? Kyle, I will be there as well. I'll be in section 115. Come hang out. Chris Drew needs a one-on-one less with Leon Rose. Let's see. These were good contracts that are aging poorly. They went for it, and now they're up against the cap. They can't make meaningful moves. Kreider is well underpaid. Took one less for the team. Robert Sims, NHL Network naming the best goalie. You know he'll take the initial offer. He'll get as much as he can, as he should. Kreider, Igor show up in the playoffs. I'm talking to Mika and Artemi. Only two players, plus, as you say, Jacob, they aren't worth some money. Zibanejad and Panarin are overpaid. Okay. Kreider, one of the best value players last 2 or 3 years. Sonny says Igor is greedy. We'll talk about that. As a non-Rangers fan, I'd ask who, if not Shesterkin, who's a better long-term guy? The answer is no one. I would agree with that. Didn't say Fox is Leetch, but they're similar type players. They're similar players in the way they play the game, Peter. Can't compare Fox to Leetch because of the perception of Leetch, and now because they win a cup. Right, the cup is there. I understand that. What I'm saying is, if Adam Fox's name was Brian Leetch, and Brian Leetch had Adam Fox's career, how would he be viewed? You don't need $11 million goalie to win a cup. You just don't. Well, the one that won last year had made 10. You know. How much do you think should get paid? What's your limit? Would you consider trading, especially with Edmonton making the finals with goalie making $2 million? Well, Jay, here's the problem. Edmonton has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman and Evan Bouchard and a bunch of other really good players. The Rangers don't. So if you want to trade rosters entirely with Edmonton, I'd be fine. You're going to give me Connor McDavid? Sure. Then I don't need Igor Shesterkin, but I don't have him, so I need him. Let me ask you this question. Let's be real. How many star players do you think the Rangers have? Not good players. Star players. How many star players do the Rangers have? And I'll give everybody who's in the chat a little bit just to answer this. I'm curious as to what people have to say. Star players. Players that, if they were not on the team would not be able to recover. So I'm going to wait, and I want to get some information here as to some answers about this. Robert Simpson says 2. Brian Fogelstrom says 3. Chad will also be in 115. My suspicion is he's going to be in the seat next to me. It's probably a good bet. Bet that hard. 3 counting Igor. John says 3 to 4. Chris says Igor and Fox. Fox, Panarin, and Igor. Mike Farisi says 4. PJ says Brett, Igor, Kreids, and Fox. 3. I think 3. 5. Jay says he includes Lafreniere. Hopefully. Again, Martin Duran says 5. Joel says 3. For me, it is 3, right? For me, in no order, it's Artemi Panarin, Adam Fox, and Igor Shesterkin. I look at this roster as it stands, and if any one of those 3 were out for a very significant period of time, I really don't think they make the playoffs. I mean, Panarin is a pure goal scorer. His pure offensive skill just oozes it. Had 49 goals a year ago. He's overpaid. Sure. Okay. 49 goals a year ago. Now, he probably doesn't get to 49 again, but probably a decent bet for 40. Fox is a franchise cornerstone defenseman, power play quarterback. So few of these guys exist. The Rangers are lucky that one of them was born on Long Island and had good parenting. Shesterkin's the best goalie in the league. Why? Period. Why are we going to sit here and break him down for reasons why they should let him go? What are we doing? He is a star player. No, Kreider's not yet. It's coming. Hang with us. We'll get there. We're sitting here looking to just break him down. Like we're just rationalizing why we don't want to play this contract. Nobody is going to sit here and tell you to cheerlead them. I don't believe in that, and I'm the first person to tell you that. I am the first person that is going to be overflowing with negativity when the time is right and when they deserve it. I lambasted this roster after they lost to the Devils in the playoffs. It's on recorded video. Go find it, watch it if you don't want to take my word for it. It's still there. But for some reason, people just have a distaste for this team's best players. It is what it is. Maybe it's a little bit of that lack of belief we saw last year where people were just waiting for the other shoe to drop so they can say, I told you so. Like it matters. Look, if you want to bash star players, have at it. Have a ball. It's a waste of your time. You do not live in the real world when you say things like Chris Kreider is overpaid. It shows a complete lack of understanding of how the cap works. I don't really have any other way to tell you that. And if you need it, you send BlueTruth your Venmo, and I will Venmo you $5 so you can take it and buy a clue. Moving on to the topic of the day, and everyone wants to talk about the contract. The Shesterkin contract extension. We'll touch on Igor's contract. News broke earlier today from Kevin Weeks that Shesterkin's camp has rejected an 8-year, $88 million offer from the Rangers. It's been said that once the season starts, Shesterkin would cease negotiations. Okay. We'll see. We'll see about that. But at least as of right now, he's not taking $11 million for 8 years. That we know. Jeremy Swayman signed 8 years, $8.25 million per in Boston. This means absolutely nothing to Igor Shesterkin. Nothing at all. I'll explain why. This is the part of that business side conversation that some people shy away from, but we hit head on BlueTruth. That's part of what we do. Jeremy Swayman was a restricted free agent. Igor Shesterkin will be an unrestricted free agent. At its base level, this means that Boston had a lot more control over Swayman than the Rangers do with Shesterkin. Had Swayman signed elsewhere, Boston could have chosen to match it or accept draft picks as compensation. If Igor doesn't sign in New York and he gets to July 1st and signs somewhere else, the Rangers are left with nothing. Kind of like the Islanders were with John Tavares, which was pretty hysterical at the time, but now that we have the potential to stare the same scenario in the face, it seems less so. I see people saying that they would love to take Jeremy Swayman at 8.25 over Igor at, say, 12, and this and that. Again, they hate star players and have no idea how the cap works. So from that standpoint, at least they're consistent. Jeremy Swayman has played in a goalie tandem with Linus Ullmark, who Boston traded to Ottawa. The last 3 seasons, Jeremy Swayman has played in 41, 37, and 44 games. Conversely, Igor Shesterkin has played in 53, 58, and 55 games, not counting the playoffs. So, if you want to compare numbers and tell me Swayman has been better, understand that he wasn't even really a starting goaltender. I personally think that deal's got quite a bit of risk for Boston. I don't know if Swayman can be a legit number 1. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. We know what Shesterkin is, though. We know how good he is, and we know how good he is especially when it matters in the playoffs. Take Shesterkin off the Rangers. Are they a playoff team? I'm serious. Are the Rangers a playoff team without Igor Shesterkin? You going to tell me Jonathan Quick playing 55 games gets them in? Where's that JD Vance meme going around? Come on. What is the plan if he walks? What do we do? As far as I'm concerned, the day he walks, if that's the scenario, at that point it's blow it up time. At that point, we are going to blow the team up. Ask yourself this question. In every single playoff series, why do we say they have a chance to win? It's him. He is the reason they can beat anyone in the playoffs. Not that they will, but that they can. You may say the power play can help. That's fine. It can. But your first thought, the first thing that you point to as to why the Rangers can win any playoff series is Shesterkin. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again because this concept is lost on people. You have to look at percentage of cap when you are comparing deals. That is how you make an apples to apples comparison. When Carey Price signed an 8-year, $84 million deal in 2017 in Montreal, that number was 14% of the cap, which was $75 million at that time. If you apply 14% to next year's $92.5 million projected cap, it's $13 million, or 12.95, I'm rounding. Richest goalie contract. Yeah, in terms of dollars, sure, but numbers inflate. Like all other numbers inflate. Everything inflates. A house 50 years ago was sold for 40 grand. Now it sells for 500. What, did the house change? No, numbers inflate. So, I know Jay Arton was asking me, all in all, yeah, I assume they're going to sign him. My spider sense says if it's 8 years, it's probably going to be 8 years at roughly 11.65 million or thereabouts. That resets the goalie market. It puts him just a hair ahead of Panarin's 11.64, so he can walk in and he can be top dog. Swayman's deal has no impact at all. Never was going to. If it's 12, then it's 12. I'm good at 12. I'm fine. But it also might not be 8 years. I think it's possible that Shesterkin may want to do a shorter deal to be able to then have time in his career to sign another contract in a few years when the cap could be significantly higher. It could be a term thing, right? Maybe he signs for 4 years, it gets him to 33, and then he signs another deal. You can't rule that out. It might be in his best interest to do that. Oh, and by the way, wouldn't a shorter deal make sense for the Rangers anyway? If you look out 4 to 5 years, the way this roster is structured, they're probably rebuilding again. It's fine, by the way. I'm good with that. Fine. I have no issue with that. People that want him to be traded, okay. What do you think they're going to get for a goalie on an expiring contract? What is a team going to give up to bring in a guy that they have absolutely no guarantee they're going to be able to keep past the current year? What would you give up? I couldn't get people to give up anything for Jake Gensel last year. Well, he's a rental, so you can't give up that much. What do you think Shesterkin is at that standpoint? And what contender doesn't have a goaltender? What does that do? So, again, in any event, the people who say you can't pay a goaltender because he doesn't play all the team's games is looking at it as ass backwards as you possibly can. Looked at the numbers today. Shesterkin played 3,277 minutes last season. The highest paid skater who played every game, Artemi Panarin, played about half that. Shesterkin also played every single minute of the playoffs. All those overtimes, too. This idea that goalies shouldn't make the money because they're only in 60 to 65% of the games is just foolish to me. They play every single minute of the playoffs when it matters. Oh, well, they had Hank and Igor and didn't win a cup, so you don't need an elite goalie. Okay. Edmonton's got Connor McDavid. He hasn't won a cup. Would you not like him? Hasn't won a cup, though, right? Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, they've played as many conference finals games as I have. Would you not want them? Same idea. We said this last week. If the Rangers were not stopped by Hank's deal from signing the top of the free agent market on more than one occasion. The money was there. It was squandered. So that I have people telling me that Lundqvist should have restructured his contract like Tom Brady did. Oh, that's brilliant. I can't believe nobody thought of that. It's brilliant until you account for the fact that you can't restructure deals in hockey. And by the way, semi-off topic, in football, when a player restructures, they still get all their money. It's just now guaranteed money, so the cap changes. It's not a hard cap like the NHL. Just putting that out there. I've also been told that Hank should have taken a team-friendly deal, like Sidney Crosby did. Team-friendly. The hell was team-friendly about with Sidney Crosby? Sidney Crosby signed a 12-year, $104.4 million deal in 2013. Number one, you can't even do that anymore. The max term is 8. The first year of that deal, he was at 13.5% of the cap. That 8.7 at the time. That's 12.5 of next year's cap. He was above 10% for the entirety of that deal. What about that was team-friendly? People have zero self-awareness sometimes about how stupid they look when they say things like this publicly. They always think the grass is always greener. If the Rangers choose to move on from Shesterkin, they may as well deconstruct everything and start over. If your name isn't Lafreniere or Fox, get the hell out. Shesterkin has them over a barrel, and he knows it. They know it too. He'll get his money. They're already talking in Toronto about this idea. Oh, if you could only have Mitch Marner or Shesterkin this summer, who would you take and why? And it's overwhelmingly Shesterkin. They know what not having goaltending means. We're just spoiled because we keep having elite after elite after elite goaltender. We just assume that's what it is. You get hurt paying average players elite money. You don't get hurt paying elite players elite money. The Rangers did a lot of paying average players elite money when Lundqvist was on the team. I'm not going to go through the names again. Brad Richards for one. Cap's going up. They cannot let the backbone of this team walk. And the trade market is just really not that robust. A lot of comments I'm going to try to get to here. I'm going to try to be a little bit. Let's see here. Garth, that's the best thing I've ever heard Brian say. I'll lend you $5 to buy a clue. Jay, yes, he is. He's 110% a bargain. Absolutely. Absolutely. Chad, it's a valid point. When Kreis had his extension, we all thought it was rich. Now he's a bargain. It hurts, then it doesn't. All this talk makes true, but totally gone for next year. Absolutely. Joel Shanker, look at the last 10 years of Stanley Cup winning goalies. Tell them how many of them made $8 million or more. How many of those teams had superstar players on them, Joel? Like Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon and the guys that Vegas had and the guys that Tampa had. Yeah, if you have superstar players, sure. Do you want to go find me superstar? Are you going to give me Nikita Kucherov in his prime on my team? Are you going to give me Connor McDavid? If you don't have them, you need the goaltender. Tom, how are you, bud? From our friends at Review and Preview. Quick and another goalie, maybe playoffs. Okay. No way. Pay Igor. Jay says pay him. Nick says Igor gives the team the best chance to win when they score 1 or 2 goals. John says, what's more concerning to me is not that he rejected the $11 million, but he doesn't want a long-term deal. Now, it could be just a rumor. John, I got to tell you, why? I would love to sign him for 4 or 5 years because I don't know what we are after that. Team's older, right? So, like, this is the time they need him. I'd give him 5. Listen, I'd give him 12 by 5 tomorrow. I don't care about that. Yeah. You actually want to let me out of this early? That's great. Because by the time 5 years goes, we don't need him anymore. Team's going to stink. They're going to be going into rebuild again. Like if you want to draw parallels to Hank, that's the parallel. They had to buy Hank out at the end. If that deal was shorter, they wouldn't have had to. Would love a 5-year deal. Here's a fair point. Was he the best goalie in 94? No. Brodeur was, but they beat him. So I don't know what absolutely right is, but I appreciate that. Garth, as an unbiased viewpoint, I do a short deal is pretty much whatever AV wants. Yes, I would agree. That's yes. That's absolutely 3 to 4 years. Yep. Okay. Peter, nobody's arguing about anything to say about Shesterkin. Bottom line, Rangers made him a well above fair deal. He didn't take it, so he'll get his 12 million. It would have been nice to give a little team discount. Yeah, but Peter, what if he doesn't want 8 years? Because again, let's do that. Let's say he gets 4 times 12. Okay. The cap will be up substantially over the next 4 years. So the next time he goes and signs a deal, it might be 4 times 15. And it will be cheap compared to what the cap is, right? So like you have to actually like see it through. Devils, Pens, Flyers would love a solid goaltender. Jay, I'd be fine with that. I actually think I'd rather have 5 than 6, frankly. I mean, again, 11.75 gets him his money. Gets him top dog status in the locker room and gets him out. I'm good. That's fine. Peter, I agree with that, but people are telling me he took a team-friendly deal. What the hell was team-friendly about having that cap hit? He was consistently a top 2, 3, 4, 5 player paid in the league. You're not doing your team a favor. Why are you doing your team a favor? Short deals are safer. I agree. Jay, I don't think we even do that. I mean, again, I hear what you're saying, but I just don't think. I don't know that you need to. Like, I think this idea, and I don't know what the trade market for goalies is never really that great, right? So I'm not even going to get into any of that. But again, shorter's fine. If he wants more money for shorter term, I'm okay with that because it cuts off the future liability. right? Now, he's going to get it because Chris Drury is going to give it to him. Because if it's a long-term deal, Chris Drury knows either they're going to win and nobody's going to care, or they're not going to win and Chris Drury will be fired. Paulie says to trade him, he's not even that good. I love Paul. I never know when he's trolling or not. Difference of opinion, but as I mentioned, Paulie's one of the admins, or the main admin, I should say, at NYR, New York Rangers. Wonderful group. Links on the page. Everyone should go join that. Sav, he's 30 years old. 8-year deal is not a good idea. Short term around 11.5. Sure, okay. Chris, if they pay him 13.5, that's exactly what they're paying right now for Trouba and Igor, and that's fine. I know. Anyway. All right, we went through that. Let's change gears. A little more positivity. I want to give you 5 reasons why BlueTruth is bullish on the Rangers this year. Let's talk about why you should get excited about the team, right? The contract will fix itself. They'll sign the goaltender. Same team's coming back, right? Well, guess what? That's reason number 1. Continuity. I mentioned this earlier in the show, and I want to revisit it. I look at the continuity as a positive because there's no reason to believe that they won't hit the ground running. And I don't mean necessarily just the players. There was a lot of concern, given how good the Rangers were last season, that members of the coaching staff, like a Dan Muse or a Michael Pekka, might be candidates for promotions elsewhere. Everyone's back. The direction of the team is not at all changed. The system, the messaging, it's all intact. No surprises. For a team that had a year like they had, that kind of feels rare to me. I really thought somebody would get a job somewhere else. Usually coaches get considered elsewhere, players sign elsewhere, so on and so forth. But right now it's full steam ahead. And the power play. The power play has been among the league's best, and a primary reason this team is relevant. And they're all back, entirely and completely. People will talk about the need for Alexis Lafreniere to get more power play time, and I do agree on that. By the way, if you like Strawberry Starburst, these are really good. Yes, I agree. Laffy needs more time in the power play, but how do you break up a unit that's been as successful as those 5 have been? Who do you take off? Who does he replace? Look, it's a good problem to have. The continuity with the first power play unit is great. Structure. 12 by 5, done. That's a bargain. Okay. Yeah. Wouldn't you? See, so Chad's reading my mind, right? Number 2, Vincent Trocheck. A huge part of the reason for the career years for Panarin and Laffy last year was Trocheck. Unbelievable year. Nobody saw coming. Now, it's true Mika took a step back, but Trocheck's step forward was huge for this team. He has solidified himself as a true clutch player. And after Hedl went down, where would the Rangers have been without Trocheck? For me, he's their number 1 center until further notice. And there were people who questioned the signing after 2023, given the length, 7-year deal. Trocheck having a career year with the opportunity to improve is a huge reason to be bullish. Their center depth has not been this strong in quite some time. And as Chad mentioned, who else wins faceoffs? He can play he can play any position. He can play your power play, your PK, big in zone faceoff, whatever it is. Like everything you ask him to do, he can be counted on to do. So I think it's a huge reason to be bullish on the Rangers is Vincent Trocheck. Yes, watch the replay. Exactly, same team as last year. You get to the deadline, fill the holes prevented from winning the cup last season. Going to be the same glaring issues that come across this season. Reason number 3, Alexis Lafreniere. Now, I don't know. I can only speak for myself and my experience. I don't know if there's another team that rushes to label young players as busts more quickly than this one. If guys don't come in and are Wayne Gretzky reincarnated, they stink. What a horrible draft pick. Bum. That bust label was thrown on Lafreniere within his rookie season, and once it starts, you know how we are, it snowballs. Lafreniere finally solidified himself in the top 6 by moving over to the right side. 28 goals, 57 points, very little power play time. Turns 23 on the 11th of this year, so 3 days from right now. I fully expect another leg up for him. 30 goals is obviously within reach, and there's something psychological about being a 30-goal scorer as far as calling players stars or whatever, however you want to go about it. But considering he had 16 goals the year before, Laffy came out and silenced a lot of critics. If there's one concern, it's that we need to know what his extension is going to cost after the season, because he needs a deal. That is a big concern. Laffy is the new Sam McDonald. Nick, no, I don't know. I mean, I am a certified financial planner. It's what I do for a living. So I may use investment terms every here and there. If I need to clarify, let me know. Kyle, must be the next Crosby or they're a bust. Give him a chance. A lot up on him. Can't wait to see Laffy play this year. Peter says, a healthy Hedel is something I will be very excited for the third line. That's great, because my fourth reason to be bullish is a healthy Filip Hedel. So thank you for the segue. The Rangers played most of last season, really, without a third line center. I think Nick Bonino was there for a while, right? After Hedel went down, there was just a hodgepodge garbage that just could never get the job done. They did the Alex Wenberg deal, but he had one more goal in the regular season than I did. To have Hedel back solidifies the roster in really a lot of ways, because it gives them real depth at center. Trocheck, Zibanejad, Hedel. That's a solid group of 3. And as we go through line combos in a bit, and I'm sure most of you know that third line is going to look like, obviously, you can probably deduce it, he's really the linchpin. They're going to go into the deadline, and assuming everyone stays healthy, center is probably the one spot that they're not likely to be looking for, because they have it. So you really can't underestimate his importance. And if he takes the jump this year that we all thought he could take last year, that helps everyone. People forget 2 years ago, he had 22 goals, right? So could he be a 30-goal guy? Can you rule it out? Hedel looked really good on the skates in preseason. Paul said move Hedel to right wing. I mean, again, depending on what happens with Smith, I'm not necessarily against that. If you go get a center, I think his natural position is center. So I would like to see him where he is and just shoot more. But there is some legitimate idea to putting him on the first line right wing if you can't fill that position. So I don't disagree with that as a premise. The fifth reason. Barca, I love Kakko as a person. You think he's reached his potential? Feel has an upward trajectory. Well, I think he's probably going to be in a spot and going to stick there this year, Barb. And I think that may make a difference. I don't know if he's here longer term. I think that that ship may have sailed. I think that's why they did the 1-year deal. Cap's going to be a problem a little bit next season. So I don't know. 5, believe it or not, is not Igor, but it's kind of in that same sense. You'll see. The fifth reason to be bullish. Direct quote. In all likelihood, this will probably be the last crack for this core. I don't think that's a secret by any means. Quote from Jacob Trouba. Is this the last dance? Maybe. I think there's something to be said about the urgency of this season. I think for a guy like Trouba, the writing's on the wall. Like, he knows it. He's upfront about it. I respect that. This does feel like the last run for this group to some extent. After this season, Panarin's got 1 year left. Could he be a trade candidate for cap reasons? Maybe. Kreider's got 2 years left, though. I felt for a while that he would retire a Ranger. I still maintain that. Trouba's as good as gone. He knows it. Lindgren's only signed for 1 year. I don't think they could move Mika if they tried. So, I've been talking about the length of the window since before the window opened on BlueTruth. Everyone's getting older. Time is not on their side. Their best shot to win may have already passed them by. Doesn't mean they can't win. It just means it gets harder. The players are aware of it. And I think that urgency will show itself this year. I think that urgency is a reason to be bullish on the team. How many years did it take them to have their backs against the wall before they woke up? So if this is it, if this is the last hurrah for this group as it is, maybe that will lead to the best version of them. They're out of chances. So those are 5 reasons why I'm personally bullish on the Rangers team. I don't know if you agree or not. I think there is legitimate reason to be optimistic. For Jacob, it is. Yep. Rich Salvati, 100% last dance. We all thought it was the last dance last year. Core 4. A retooling will be needed next year-ish. That's common. It's common. There's Lou. I want to see the back end take the next jump this season, both from a structure and physicality. I don't think it's our last dance for the cup after this year. Kako appears to once again be traded for the deadline. No significant improvements happen between now and then. Well, remember, Brian, I mean, his cap number is very manageable for what he does. So you have to account for that. I mean, is he ever going to be, Jack Hughes? No. I think that ship has probably sailed too. But for what he makes, still a valuable piece. Okay. So let's take a look at what the roster might look like. Now, this is going to be a little repetitive because there just isn't that much change from last year. There just isn't. Now, these lines are under the expectation that everyone is healthy. So operate under that assumption. Sometimes, that's not the case. It isn't right now. We'll talk about that. Line 1, Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. This was their best line a year ago. One of the best in the entire league. Every player on that line had a career year. All 3 of them. Trocheck, new high in points, most assists in his career, most goals he's had since 2018. Panarin, new career high in goals in a season by far, new career high in points in a season by far, massive year for Artemi Panarin. Lafreniere, new high in goals, new high in assists, which obviously means a new high in points, and he doesn't even get power play time. Let's not play games here, right? This is the Rangers' top line. It's not close. I don't care who starts the game. This is line 1, okay? Let's just call it what it is. But the consistency here is going to be very important. Another year older for Panarin. He's 32. But he's been getting better. So I don't know if you can say he's going to get to a $120 again, but he should have a strong year. 100 points is definitely on the table, I feel. He's one of those 3 guys that I mentioned, those star players that they really can't afford to lose. The numbers just speak for themselves. If you remove Panarin's production from the roster, I think they struggle mightily. Average offensive team, really, as it is. So take him out. They don't really have anyone else on the team that is of his talent profile. Could that be Lafreniere in time? It could be, and that would be unbelievable. He's going to get better, but he's not there yet. As we discussed earlier about my reasons to be bullish on the team, Lafreniere's continued emergence is going to be a key story for this team this year. If Panarin takes a natural step back on his production, which could be expected, Laffy being able to to offset will be very important. Obviously, as a first overall pick, he had the draft pedigree for it. Trocheck, we talked about as a reason to be bullish. So he was so important last year. The first time in forever, the Rangers had someone that could actually win a key faceoff or two when they really needed it. Probably first time since Craig McTavish, who I met one time at a ShopRite in South Jersey. This line has their best left wing, their best center, their best right wing. This is the engine of the team. It is, PJ, it's line 1. Yeah, best picture ever for Trocheck. Tro was a beast. Kako won't even be Gene Carr. I agree on your Panarin point. He's so valuable and gets a lot of hate from fans. Thank you, Barb. 75 points calling for Laffy this year. We're doing over-unders, so hang around, PJ. You'll appreciate that. Line 2. Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, and Riley Smith. So it's become a running joke. Everyone loves to pile on Kreider and Zibanejad. It's just what we do. We talked about it earlier. Kreider is a massive value for his contract. Did you know? Over the last 3 seasons, Chris Kreider has the 7th most goals in the league with 127. It's more than Nathan McKinnon. It's more than Braden Point. It's more than Alex Ovechkin. It's more than a lot of people who make a lot more money than he does. Kreider scores more goals per cap dollar than Austin Matthews. Oh, and by the way, logs a ton of minutes on the penalty kill. So does Zibanejad. And I was listening to the Up in the Blue Seats podcast with Larry Brooks, Molly Walker, and Brian Boyle. And Brooks brought up a really good point that I hadn't really thought of until he said I thought it was really insightful. Kreider and Zibanejad are asked to really do so much for the team. You know, they're on their normal line. That gets a lot of ice time. They're on the power play. They're on the penalty kill. It's a lot, right? You know, the PK is not easy minutes. They're asked to do so much, and maybe that's why you're seeing Mika struggle at 5-on-5. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it might be somewhat of an explanation. And I don't know how you fix that, right? Because Mika is such a valuable penalty kill asset. He tends to be the center who gets the tough defensive assignment as well at 5-on-5. So, you know, maybe he just can't be that all situations player anymore. And that's going to be a problem given his contract. I mean, they've tried a bunch of wingers with these two and it hasn't worked. Riley Smith is just the next in the line. I think if you correctly consider this line as the second line, the roster just feels better as a whole, right? There's something psychologically different to me about saying that Riley Smith is your second line right wing than he's your first line right wing. Like, I think he just fits that role so much better. That's really what they are, right? The Panarin line is the top line. I think Riley Smith will be more productive here than he was in Pittsburgh. I think it was just a really poor fit in Pittsburgh. 2 years ago, Smith had 26 goals. So to say he should clear 20, I think it's on the low end. I think if he's given the opportunity, he should clear 20 relatively easily. And I'm sure he's going to get time on the second power play unit as well, right? So again, a lot of it's just housekeeping. But if you say to yourself, this is line 2, psychologically, I think it just slots better. Like, you don't worry about Riley Smith as your second line right wing. As your first line, you don't really feel good about it, you know? Paulie says, Mika, Smith will have to play. Smith will have to skate like an animal. Will be playing on that line. Lou says, can't imagine Zibanejad not becoming a player he was 2 years ago. He's too talented not to expect that performance again. We need him as the teams in the division have gotten better. Paulie says third line right wing sounds better to me. Yeah, probably. Zib needs to move away from the power play so much better in the PK. Third line. Cooley, Hedl, Kakko. We talked about Philip Hedl being healthy as a reason to be bullish. The Rangers were able to win the President's Trophy without a legitimate third line center for most of the season. Hedl on the third line gives the Rangers enviable center depth. A year ago, we were talking about Hedl as the second line center and Trocheck on the third line. So from that vantage point, having a skilled forward like Hedl on the third line is great. As I said, enviable center depth. And I'm getting a lot of kid line 2.0 vibes from this trio, right? But a little bit more edge, a little better defense, right? Lafreniere is primarily an offensive player. That's who he is. So you reprise that line with Cooley instead of Lafreniere, and then Cooley's game complements Kakko and Hedl kind of nicely. It's kind of an interesting mix on this line. Little grit, little finesse, little defense. It's a good group. A discussion around the development of Kaapo Kakko is not one I intend to have tonight, right? I think we've beat that dead horse. I know we talked to Bar about that just quickly. But I will say this, and I will leave it at this. Has he materialized into who we thought he'd be? Absolutely not. Is that entirely his fault? Absolutely not. I think the Rangers organization carries quite a bit of blame as to why Kakko never became that no weakness player that he was when they took him in the draft. Chris says 10, 16, 13 played 2 more minutes of 5-on-5 than 20 and 93. Line 100%. Chris, I could agree with you more. Paulie was a Smith fan 3 years ago. I love Paulie Zingers. Fourth line. So again, we're assuming all health here. So VC, Edstrom, and Rempe. Now, Jimmy VC is hurt to start the year, but when he's healthy, I think he's a really important player and a really versatile player, right? He can play any role you need him to play. He's played fourth line, third line, first line, Swiss Army knife kind of guy. If Matt Rempe isn't going to be an everyday player for this team, like, I just don't see the point. There's no reason that Rempe can't be an effective fourth line player on a night in and night out basis without just getting in fights. It can't be like it was last year when Laviolette chose to start him, play him for 4 minutes, and then sits his ass on the bench. Essentially, you play a forward short in the rotation all night. Now, for what it's worth, I would play Adam Edstrom as a center here over Sam Carrick. I'll be curious to see what happens when VZ is healthy. I think Edstrom's preseason was great. He won the Lars Schoberg Award. I mean, he can't teach size. I know they added Carrick in free agency, but I do think Edstrom has earned it. So we'll see where that ends up. When VC's healthy and what they do. Kakko's got a little Jan Eriksson in him. Mark, I can see that. I can see that. Do you feel as though they don't call the lines this because of CK and Mika being better defensively? I mean, you know what, Paul? That's actually a really good point because they do go up against defensively the other team's number one line. So from a matchup standpoint, that's actually a really interesting point. I didn't really think about that. That does make a lot of sense. Kreider makes 6.5. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Nick, it's not that I'm not like this Rempe fan, right? What I mean is that if you're gonna play him, play him. Don't have him play for 4 minutes. You're shortening your roster. He can be an effective player in that role. Let's talk about over-unders in a second. His point total is kind of funny. So, again, it's not that I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm a huge Rempe guy. I mean, I think that it's that visceral players getting beat up type people, but neither here nor there. Missed the cut. The most notable was Brennan Othman. So this is a point of contention. So people were up in arms that Brennan Othman, who at age 21, didn't make the team. And I really don't know why people were so shocked by this. I really had no idea. I'll make it real simple. How is he going to play? Where on this roster was he going to play? You think the Rangers are going to put a rookie on Mika's right wing now? Of course not. It was never going to happen. The only logical spot you could make, the only case you could make, was to put Othman on the third line with Cooley and then drop Cooley down. But that wasn't likely either. Lavi loved that Cooley-Kakko-Chytil line. So, I've said this before, and I will say it again. The Rangers have one elite prospect in the system, and that's Gabe Perreault. He's a year away at least. Maybe 2. People get enamored with Brennan Othman because Brennan Othman was a first-round pick, which we don't make too many of those. And he was at one time the top prospect in the organization. However, that doesn't mean he's going to be any good. He doesn't have top-line potential, in my opinion. I think he's a middle six guy. And that's okay. But he's not going to be Perreault. Perreault has legitimate top-line potential here. Right now, there's just not a spot. So people said, well, play him on the fourth line. That's not going to happen, guys. He's not a fourth-line player. Not a first-line player, but he's not a fourth-line player. So that really wasn't going to happen either. In any event, it really, really would not surprise me if Othman is moved at the deadline, which we'll talk about in a little bit. People just fall in love with prospects. The only one of these guys off limit to me is Gabe Perreault. Nobody else is a deal breaker. And guess what? If Othman was the deal breaker last year for Gensel, then shame on Chris Drury for not being aggressive enough. And I don't think he'll make that mistake again. We'll talk about that. They like Brett Berard a lot. It's not a spot. Eventually there will be. Talk about Edstrom. The optics aren't good when they lose the game after leading after 2 and Rempe doesn't play at all in the third. Yeah, I agree. People still view Othman as a 50-goal OHL scorer. He had 11 even strength in the AHL last year. Rempe and Edstrom had 8 each. Yeah. He is scrappy. He is. Listen, Paulie, I agree with you, but that's not first line, right? Like, that's middle six. And that's okay. Nobody's saying that's okay. It's great. John, what's the over-under on Jacob becoming our 7th defenseman? I can't. They can't bench him. They have to play him. They're paying him too much. They can't do it. You can't do that to your captain on top of it. Like, if he's on the team, he has to play. He has to play. Third pair, but he has to play. which is good segue because there's my defensive pairs. Again, there's no changes here, right? Again, assuming everybody's healthy. Lindgren and Fox, Miller and Schneider, Jones and Trouba. As long as Ryan Lindgren is a Ranger, which may be for this season, and that'll be the end of it, very high probability of that actually, he will be to Adam Fox's left. For now, he is the Robin to Fox's Batman. He is only signed for this year, and Braden Schneider has earned his spot on the second pair. When Schneider was promoted to play with Miller, Schneider looked good, and more importantly, Miller looked a lot better without his previous partner, who will remain nameless for this conversation. Zach Jones, at long last, has earned a spot. Congratulations, kid. Your prize, carrying Jacob Trouba, the league's highest paid bottom pair defenseman. We've been over it. You know how I feel about it. It's a disaster. Good for Jones. He's been given nothing. Kid's earned it. I'm excited to see him play regularly. Now, this is when healthy, right? We know Lindgren is currently out. So that throws some of the lines and the pairs into a bit of a blender. That does create some opportunities. So the latest pairs I saw from practice was that they moved up Miller to play with Fox, the top pair. Now, this is a pair many people have been asking to see, especially late in games if the Rangers are down. From a pure talent perspective, that's their top left and right side defenseman. Now, they've moved Schneider to the left on the second pair, and they've moved Trouba up. I guess all things considered, that makes sense if you're short a top four defenseman. So then you have Jones, and then he's been paired with training camp star Victor Mancini. Now, Mancini is a great story. 5th round pick in 22. He has shown some skating and some offensive pop that nobody really thought he would show. Has had a really, really strong camp. And he's getting people excited about what he might end up being. You know, if the Rangers do move on from Trouba this offseason, which I do expect, they have no choice, really. Mancini could be the guy that locks down that permanent role on the right side third pair. For now, injuries made opportunity. He will get a shot on the opening night roster. Good for him. Longer term, I think Mancini getting a cup of coffee this year with the big club can only help him moving forward. He would get smashed in the NHL right now. I think he's referring to I think Hoffman. To the fans, boo Trouba on opening night. I am absolutely booing Trouba on opening night. 100%. 100%. I no timer tolerance. I don't. That whole episode, Nick, I gotta fight the urge to get into it because it's gonna get me mad. It's the all-in year. And I got to worry about this situation. Just, you don't know how much that just drives me up a wall. Lou, Mancini, 7th defenseman, kid has size and skill. Now, Lou, I would say this. He won't be 7th defenseman. When Lindgren's healthy, he's going back down to Hartford to play important minutes. I think Rueda will end up being the 7th guy. I'm okay with Hoffman being traded at the deadline for the right piece. Yeah, I agree. I am perfectly... Hoffman on the 1, don't care. Go, buy. Give me the piece I need. 1,000%. Mancini and Hank have some parallels. You talking about the low draft pick? It's possible. There's Dave. I was wondering where the hell you were. Big, strong, physical Long Island boy. Boo Igor. When am I going to boo Igor? Dave, you missed the whole Igor conversation. We'll talk. Peter, I'm not a big Trouba fan, but be blind to his. He's a good defenseman to have. Yeah, but Peter, I don't know that he is. I don't think he can play anymore. He looked. Everybody says, "Oh, he was hurt last year." He hasn't been hurt for 3 years. His gap control is bad. I mean, he gets the guys fired up though. He's nice and he plans parties. Getting the Italians excited. Is he the? What the hell was his name? Oh my God, it's escaping me right now. Vinny Lettieri. He's the new Vinny Lettieri. It's funny. So those are the lines to start. Now, as we move through the season and probably around, March 7th, we're probably going to see some changes. And that's where we'll get started with that group. We'll talk about continuity. This is continuity. I will chalk up continuity as a good thing. Trouba career here. Wouldn't that be something? Okay. Let's talk about season predictions, some player stat over-unders. Kind of really know what the odds say are in store for the Rangers this year. Got a lot of these. So let's look at the awards first and foremost. Adam Fox, who stinks, right? Adam Fox has the second best odds in the league to win the Norris Trophy at plus 600. The leader in the clubhouse, Cale Makar from Colorado, at plus 200. Again, I think Makar probably wins it, but again, for all you Adam Fox sucks people, does this say anything to you that maybe you're wrong? He's the second best odds to win the award that they hand out for being the best defenseman in the league for the second time. And you think he stinks. Thumbs up. Good job by you. The Vezina. Igor Shesterkin at plus 500 is the favorite to win the Vezina this year. Now, clearly you shouldn't pay the guy who's the odds-on favorite to win the trophy for best goalie in the league, right? I'm not going to belabor the point, but backbone of this team, they go nowhere without him. I think the people that are banging the table not to sign him, like I think that you actively need medication or that you need to get off the medication you are taking. I don't know. I mean, where is this team without Igor Shesterkin? The answer is picking very high in the draft. For the individual player over-unders, now Panarin's injury uncertainty, I think that's why I didn't see any numbers for him, which is kind of annoying. But I figure people are going to ask because I don't have anything for Panarin's goals or points or anything. I think it's because he missed time and people they didn't know what to do about it, right? Nick, he's going to play in the third. He can't play poorly as a third pair defenseman, can he? I mean, you know, Fox is a stud. Does it matter for any of them, Paulie? Dave, we'll talk. Please be safe down there, please. And we'll talk when things are better. But we went over the whole Igor thing. You just missed it. Go back and rewatch it. I know you will. Player over-unders. Look at some of the goals. So the number for Lafreniere is 29.5. I love the over. I love the over. He had 28 goals last year, and the arrow is pointed up. I think he gets to 35. I think he knows it's a contract year, and he is motivated more than ever to position himself to secure the bag. I love Laffy to get to 30 goals this year. I think that's a really good number. I don't know about you. Again, that to me, that's a strong number. Chris Kreider, 35.5 is his goal number. Now, this is a little tough. Kreider has scored 52 goals, 36 goals, and 39 goals the last 3 years. So any of the last 3 years, he has cleared this number. Could he do it again? Sure. I think it's a lot to ask. So for me, I lean the under on Kreider at 35.5. I think 30 is probably where he settles. I don't obviously think he can do better than that, but I think 30 is probably the right one. Kreider under. Shocked to hear you say that. 75 for Laff. We didn't get the points yet. That was goals. Christian Carlson. I've always been rooting for Laff. He's going places. Paulie says best goalie in the league. Will you be able to tip your cap to the poor guy? I when he leaves, that'd be great. I will shake his hand. I'll buy him a drink on the way out, Nick. He's got to go. Nick, there is nothing Jacob Trouba can do to validate an $8 million salary, which is not his fault. I don't blame him for it, but that's the reality of things. You won't be able to sign him against Shesterkin. Really, Joe? Why is that? Why? Of course, go look at their cap. The cap's fine. They're going to clear $8 million out. It's fine. PJ takes Kreider the under. Yeah, I think that's yeah. That's where I'm at. Mika. Mika's 29.5. This is tough too. It's very much a lot of correlation between him and Chris. Last 3 years, goals 29, 39, 26. If he can get anything at 5-on-5 this year, I think he probably breaks 30. I just lean the under. I think it's probably a good number. I lean the under. Wouldn't surprise me to get back to 30, 35. It's just tough for me. I lean under on Mika. Nothing wrong with 30. No, yeah. Joe, there's lots of contracts going away, too. Did you know that Panarin's 11.6 gets clear after next season? And Trouba's 8? Money's there. Don't let the internet fool you. Money's there. I can go over it with you if you'd like. Wouldn't even bet on Mika. Yeah, I don't. PJ, I don't. This is me talking, right? Like, I don't think I would want to bet the under on a Ranger player. Like, I don't want to win that money. I want to be. I'd love to be wrong if that's the case. Like, why would I bet on something that I don't want to see happen? I don't know. Maybe I'm just that way. I'm aspirational by nature. I don't know. Think it's a tough number. Trocheck, his goal number is 22.5. I lean the over on that, right? I like that line. The last 2 years in New York, he's had 22 and 25. So again, he's already reached the over on this both seasons he's been here. I don't see why he can't get 25 again based on who he's playing with still getting those, power play opportunities. Pierce is over for Zib. P.J. is over for Vinny. I do like the over for goals for Trocheck. All right, over to points. One of these are going to get a kick out of. Adam Fox. Foxy's at 72.5. That's over. And I'll tell you why. As long as he plays a full season, this is almost a guarantee to go over. He's at 73 points last year in 72 games. 72 and 82 the year before, and 74 and 78 the year before that. To me, he is a point per game player. I think he can get to 80, so I like the over here on Fox's points. Power play quarterback, just an absolute stud. Stud. I would sign Igor Shesterkin. What are we talking about? I would sign them all. I would sign Lafreniere, I would sign Miller, and I would sign Igor. I'd let Trouba go, which is going to happen. Who else are... Kako's probably not going to sign, because why would he? They're fine. Joe, they're really okay. Fox is always on the ice, I agree. No baby making until after the cup. Ken, they have a lot of space next year, but they do have some people to fix. Robert, to tell me Hellebuck's a better goaltender, I think they only won one game in the playoffs, so I don't know if that's the case. And you want to throw regular season numbers at me, and I really don't care. Igor was an absolute animal in the postseason, which is the only thing that matters, by the way. I don't care about Connor Hellebuck. Okay. That is not a comparable. Okay. Igor Shesterkin is going to be the highest paid goaltender in the league, and he deserves it. I don't know what else. We're spinning our wheels. I mean, okay. So again, over for Fox on points. Laffy's points, 64.5, which I know PJ's taking the over because he's calling for 75. 57 last year. I think he gets to 30 goals this year. If he gets to 30 goals this year, he's going to clear 64.5. I like the over for Lafreniere. Absolutely. John, what's that got to do with Fox on the power play? Robert, you are giving me regular season awards, and I do not care about the regular season. It is a nuisance. I don't care. Like these numbers mean nothing. You get to the playoffs, I mean, they just don't. He is the best goalie in the league. If they don't have him, they don't make the playoffs. Joe says over for Laugh. I agree. Love the over. Love the over. So another tough number is Mika. Again, 76.5 points. So last year, 72. Didn't miss any time. 91 the year before that. 81 the year before that. So I think the question you have to ask yourself is, was 72 points a blip for him, or was it the new normal? I lean under. I'm not betting it. I don't want to root for him not to get points. I just need to see it before I believe it, because I am concerned about him longer term. I think Father Time might be catching up a wee bit early for him, and that scares the hell out of me with his contract. I lean under. Hasn't won any playoff games. Quite a bit of them, actually. The team's been in the conference finals twice in the last 3 years. Zip hits over if he hits the net. Yep. 70.2 center isn't bad at all. It is not. No, it is not. How about that? Trocheck, 68.5. Jack it up. Over. Hit 77 last year. He's still playing with Laffy and Panarin. Even if Panarin drops a touch, I think Trocheck is fine. I like the over on 68.5 points for Vincent Trocheck. Lou, Shesty is a playoff gamer. She's contributed to prove every year. Yep. You know, Henrik Lundqvist once with 3 shutouts in Game 7. Trocheck over. PJ, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but Tom, do you really want that money? I don't want that money. Joe says over for I don't want to bet an under on a player. Oh, look, I won money. Who cares? I can make money. This was the funny one. So Matt Rempe's over under for points is a robust 7.5. Rempe had 2 points last year in 17 games. That translates to about a 10-point number in a regular season. Now, I think you have to be a special level of degenerate to be betting Matt Rempe's point total. But if I got to pick a side, I think he'll break 7.5 points. That's it. It's just what it is, right? You saying easy over? I don't know if it's an easy over. I think he gets there. I don't know if it's necessarily an easy over, but I just thought it was kind of funny as I was looking for the over. Why is Matt Rempe on this list, right? There is no debate. It is whoa, says the Rangers app. Whoa. I don't care what you say. It's whoa. It's fine. The correct answer is whoa. It was written that way. Joe Villo calling for Rempe 21 points. That'd be awesome. That'd be a great story. I know. I mean, he might be. Yeah. I mean, the over number. You know, glued to this point, he might spend so much time in the box that he won't actually get the chance to get points. So, over under for goalie wins. Igor Shesterkin 34.5. I think this depends on how much you think he plays. He had 36 wins in 55 games last year. He had 37 in 58 the year before and 36 in 52 the year before that. So if Igor plays 55 games, think it's an over. I think he probably plays 55 games, so we're going to go over. Only goalie in the league to win 35 games or more the last 3 years is Igor Shesterkin. But he stinks and we shouldn't pay him. Yeah, if you listen to the guys on the internet. Rempe has more points or fights. That's a good one. Ooh, PJ, that's a good one. So PJ, I think the answer to your question is I think he's actually going to try to play hockey this year. So I think the fights got him in, but I think his play will make him stay. If that makes sense. Like I think he will actually attempt to play hockey. Dylan Gunther, first goal in Utah history. You know, Chris, I was going to get him in fantasy. Like I had him lined up and I got sniped. I was so mad because I have Logan Cooley kept. Rempe gets 15 points, says Ken. Joe says fights for sure. All right, some of the team numbers. The Rangers are minus 350 to make the playoffs. Listen, if they don't make the playoffs, everybody gets fired. There is no logical way you are going to convince me that the New York Rangers, barring a catastrophic injury to an actual star core player, is not at the worst the third team in this division. That's a playoff spot. Now, for those of you who don't know, you have to lay $350 to win $100 on the Rangers to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs unless things happen. They're going to make the playoffs. Florida looked amazing tonight. How are we going to beat them this season? Well, let's get there first. This is, again, people look really good in the regular season, and then the playoffs come and they don't look good. Still the regular season. It's okay. I'm also not that constructive on Boston, to be fair, Joe. So I know they played Boston. Okay. The over-under for points, 100.5. By the way, these are all from DraftKings, in case anybody wanted to know where I got these numbers. They're from DraftKings as of yesterday. The Rangers over-under is 100.5 points. Over, right? I mean, like, I don't necessarily think they're going to get 114 again, but they're a 100-point team. No. I mean, they 10 teams last year at 102 points or more. Rangers are a top 10 team. So I'll take the over. I think they clear 102 points. I think it's a problem if they don't. I don't really care, but I think it's a problem if they don't. So I do like the I like over on that point number. Lou saying 105. Yeah, I mean, like it seems a little low, Lou. I honestly I think they're a 100-point team. I'm not really concerned with them being 100-point team, but I think they're a 100-point team. President's Trophy. They are 13-1 to win the President's Trophy. I don't care. If you care about the President's Trophy, more power to you. I do not think they will have the most points again. They will be fine. They will be fine, but I don't think they're going to have the most points again. I don't even remember. I'd have to go back and look the last time a team had the President's Trophy in consecutive years. I'm going to go look that up now just because I'm actually kind of curious if they, and really, you don't even want it to be. So the last time that a team won the President's Trophy 2 years in a row was Vancouver in 2011 and 2012. So it's been a dozen years since that's happened. Prior to that, wow, it's been a minute. It was the Flames in 88 and 89. So I'm going to say no, they don't win the President's Trophy because history tells me that that's probably the case. I think they don't want to burn themselves out this year, so that's going to be interesting. John says no President's Trophy, please. Kreider putting up 50? No. If anybody does, it'll be Artemi. Nick says don't touch the cup. I hear you, Nick. I think that's more urban legend. Division. Rangers are plus 260 to win the Metro. That's the second best odds behind the Devils. Look, Devils are getting a lot of love. That's a leap of faith to me that adding an okay goaltender will make huge changes. I like the Rangers to win the division. The Devils will be better. No two ways about it. But they're not better than the Rangers. Carolina will be good, but not as good as last year. So I think it's a little insulting that the Rangers aren't favored, but that's okay. I think that's fine. The Rangers should win the Metro. I don't think adding Jacob Markstrom to the Devils all of a sudden makes the Devils better than the Rangers. I know that there's a group of people that fear the Devils. They don't want to lose to the Devils, and they worry about the Devils, and screw the Devils. Rangers should win the division. I also don't care. Yes. Nick, I'm trying to be PG. Not that I really care, but, you know. Rich, so we talked about this at length. It was $11 million. He didn't want to do that for 8 years. I think he wants a shorter deal with a little more money. I'd pay him whatever he wants. I really don't care. They have no choice. They've built themselves this bed. They need to lay in it. Okay, goalie, new goons on the back end. Yeah, I don't, yeah, them too. Yeah, they can. Yeah. Matt says very rare for the Rangers to get love from the experts. Yeah, that's fair. Tom, I do live in New Jersey, so whatever DraftKings came up on my phone is what I got the odds from yesterday. So yes, that would be correct. Peter says Rangers win the Metro. I agree. I also don't care, Peter, but I think they do. Eastern Conference. Rangers are plus 650 to win the Eastern Conference. That's the fourth best odds behind Florida, Toronto, and the Devils. Now, again, Devils are getting a lot of love. I think that's a bit of a leap of faith. I trust Toronto's goaltending like I trust gas station sushi, and which is not even a little bit. Florida won it all. They've gone to the finals 2 years in a row. I think they've played a lot of hockey. So, I mean, I think they're the best team other than the Rangers in the conference. Me personally, I am down on Tampa Bay, which if you look at their teams, like a one-line team now. I'm down on Toronto, who has no goaltending at all, and their defense isn't really great. And I'm down on Boston because I just don't really think they're that good anymore. They won 15. They got 15 points last year with loser points. So, again, I think the Rangers will be fine. I think 650 is an interesting number. The New York Rangers odds to win the Stanley Cup are 13-1. They are the fifth best odds in the National Hockey League behind usual suspects Edmonton, Florida, Dallas, and the Devils. Edmonton's good. Florida's good. Dallas is good. Devils can eat a bag. I just think that this is just so much. They just still love Jack Hughes. I don't know. Like I look at them and I'm not as concerned as some people are. But just remember that the team that you all think stinks and should send half their roster packing and not sign the goaltender, they have the 5th best odds to win the whole goddamn thing. So maybe, just maybe, you are not giving them full credit because they have a shot. I will leave you with this thought, and that is that from the opener in Pittsburgh on Wednesday to the last game on April 17th against Tampa Bay, 82 games, none of it matters. None of it. Not even a little bit. The team you see take the ice on Wednesday in Pittsburgh might look markedly different by the time March 7th rolls around. If what Jacob Trouba said is true, that it's no secret that this is the last dance for this core, then I fully expect the Rangers to be very aggressive at the deadline in a way they really weren't last year. I think that Chris Drury has learned his lesson here. They had a shot to go for it and chose against it. And to have lost the series to Florida the way they lost it, essentially all 1-goal games, you have to think that if they had a legitimate winger to play with Mika Zibanejad, they maybe find that goal a couple times and survive. I think if it comes down to it, anyone not named Gabe Perreault in this system has a chance to be moved. And I will say again, the way I said it at the deadline last year, I have zero interest in the Rangers making a first-round pick this year. They need to grow a set and push their chips into the middle and go all in. It'd be a lot better if they weren't wasting $8 million on their third pair defense who doesn't put up points, but it is what it is. All that matters is what they do in the playoffs. Laviolette said, quote, "You got to get through the 82. This team has their sights on the Stanley Cup. No question. If they drop 3 in a row in December, it's fine. All they got to do is get in. And they're going to get in. And then it'll matter. We'll go through the 82. We'll get too high and too low at times because that's what we do. I personally watch every game twice because what else would I do? It's not even to see if they're winning or losing. It's about how they're playing because that's really what will determine what their realistic chances are in the playoffs, not some shootout loss to Minnesota in February. I started the show tonight talking about this time of year being, this time of the new season being a range of emotions. Anticipation, excitement, some apprehension. Me? Well, I'm probably dialed up a little too much, if we're being honest, for this point in the season as far as my level of concern. My level of apprehension. Look, again, my day ones know. I've been preaching that they just don't have a lot of time to win. The concentration of over 30 at the top end of the roster has been and is still a major concern of mine. I think what Trouba said is true. I think it really is the last shot for this core. And I don't doubt that they're going to coast through the regular season, and I really don't care. Win a bunch of games, doesn't matter. I put myself at the end of April, and I look at them, and I don't know if they're good enough. And after the deadline last year, just that lack of urgency from Drury, it still blows my mind. They need to be all in. I don't know how you can't be all in with the way the roster is structured. And I think maybe it's more desired outcome, but I think that there is a splash to be made in March, and we'll see what March holds. Let the misery begin. Chris, I hope you're so right. It's so key to go aggressive at the deadline. We can't afford not to be. Yes, I agree. Joe agrees. Jack Hughes injured this year over under. I never wish injury. Would I be upset about it? No, but I never wish injury. Yeah, actually, Tom, they did actually cut up the commercial I was in. We were talking about kids. Obviously, now my son Braden is going to be 7 in January, but he's a little 8-month-old in that video. So I always love seeing him. Let me see that picture. Mike, great. I'll be at the game. I will also be at the game against Detroit. I'm going to the home opener and the one against Detroit, so I will be there. Wouldn't be surprised if Gabe was here after college. I think that's a little. I know we played that card with Kreider. I don't think that's in the cards this year. Joe, no, thank you, Joe. Thank you. As I always say to everybody, thank you always. We will be here throughout this year as we always are. And I want to thank everyone who supports this podcast, this Facebook page, the show. Our Facebook follower account has broken 12,000, which is just awesome. I mean, it's very humbling. All you guys supporting the show, being a part of interacting with me, it means a ton. I hope you know that I appreciate it. And the time that you spend interacting with BlueTruth, none of this is possible. None of it's really fun, frankly, without you guys. So really, thank you. Paulie, I agree. Could not agree more. Tom says Yankees win, Giants win. The Giants, well, Tom, the Giants winning is counterproductive, no matter what you tell me. So I don't think that's in their best interest to win, but maybe we can disagree. Do you think Igor will play more than 33% of the season this year? There's a contract on. Sure. Why wouldn't he? What do you mean? Oh yeah, he's going to play 655 games. I haven't gotten there yet because I don't know what they need. They might need a winger. Maybe Riley Smith scores 20, 30 goals and he doesn't need a winger. Maybe they need a defenseman. I don't really know. But Sam, there's a move to be made. And they didn't make that move last year. And I still wake up sometimes. I think back, you ever see the meme with the guy? I think you might think about other women. That's me. Why did they make a deal? Why? They had that shot. Nobody's going to convince me that Jake Gensel put him over the top last year. And it drives me nuts. Nuts. It's wasted opportunity. Barb, I'm so glad I joined this group. Well, thank you. Not many women. We do get some women to comment. So it's a page, not a group, but that's okay. But yeah, no, listen, I appreciate that. I appreciate your comments tonight. You're welcome to jump on whenever you'd like to. It's always a lot of fun. We have fun here. We may always agree on things. I have my special way of saying that sometimes, but it's all because we all share the love of the team and the desire for them to do something they haven't done since I was 10 years old. So we may have different opinions of how they get there, but I think we all want the same thing. So by all means, thank you for joining the show tonight. John, I'm still looking forward to trade this player. That player is overpaid. Fire the coach. Bring up the kids. Welcome to New York Rangers hockey. Nick, I am now smarter for being here. Thank you. I appreciate that. Always a great show. PJ, thank you. Always. I'll do Borelli's one of these days. I don't know when that's going to be. I kind of have to because I said I would. But Wednesday night, tomorrow night, is the night that the world begins again. And as I said before, wherever the story is going to end, tomorrow night it starts. So Merry Christmas Eve. I know we'll all be watching the game. I'm sure I'll have my post after the game, and I'm sure that we will we'll be very calm if they lose, right? We're not going to lose our minds. Not this group, right? Not Rangers fans, right? Anyway, thank you all for watching. Next show, I don't have an exact date on it. If I had to guess just the way the schedule lines up, it'll probably be around October 30th. They'll have played about 9 or 10 games at that point. The week of election week, I am not here. I'm going to Disney, which some of you know I do from time to time. Plus all kinds of nonsense going on in the country at that point. Again, this show is never political. It never will be political. I don't care who the hell you vote for. Just go vote. I don't care. Do what you want to do. Or don't. I don't even, whatever. This is not the time and the place for that. But that week, there'll be a lot of things going on that'll probably take our minds off things. But I'll be in Disney that week, so I really don't care. But wherever you want to, blow the place up. So around October 30th is probably a good expectation of the show. But as I always do, I'll be posting on the BlueTruth page when we're going to do it, some of the topic breakdown and things like that. And I always appreciate the feedback there. More comments coming in. Nick, the 30th. Yeah, Nick, we don't do the show every week. There's not enough that goes on to have to. I don't need to break down the line change in the second period against Detroit. You got to give this. You got to give it some room to breathe. Let there be a couple games. Kind of just see like how they're doing. So look at it in waves as opposed to the granularity of every single game. As somebody who watches every game twice, even I don't get wrapped up in the granularity of every single game. And it is the final year for Sam Rosen. We'll talk about that as we go through the year. I know I haven't brought it up that much. Win one for the Gipper. I don't know. John, awesome job. Thank you. No, John, thank you. Thank you for the interaction. Thank you for watching. Barb, the Rangers are the ultimate toxic boyfriend relationship. Yes, Barb, we are all in a very abusive relationship with the New York Rangers. All we do is love. All we do is love, and they just never bring us flowers anymore, right? So, yeah. Let's go Rangers. So pumped for tomorrow. So this year we have annual pass. We stayed at Coronado Springs in January. We stayed at the Boardwalk in May. We stayed at the Polynesian in June. We stayed at, where else did we stay? Why is this escaping me right now? Oh my God, where else did we stay? We're doing the Swan and Caribbean Beach as a split trip this time because we wanted to just try different places. Where the hell else did we stay? Wow, I got to think about that now. I know we did Boardwalk, Polynesian. Oh, Contemporary. Never mind. hopefully Disney will still be there. Yeah, no, it's funny. So I have friends that work down there, and they say that they monitor the weather by if Disney's opening or closing. If Disney's closing, get the hell out. It's pretty much their barometer for that. 2-0 Utah. Yeah, good for them. Hope Logan Cooley scores on my fantasy team. It's fun. Listen, PJ, I can make you a nice list of drinks to get in Disney World. It's great. Wonderful. Very refreshing alcohol. It's the best. Don't forget the ponchos. You know what? If it's raining, I'll go back to the hotel. I'm not a rain guy. Like, I mean, I'm there. I don't really care. But we've done all the rides so much now that we can actually kind of relax. I'm a huge Guardians of the Galaxy comic concert. I love that ride. And I have yet to get the Tears for Fears song. It pisses me off. I've never heard the song like 5 times. It's a lot of fun. I have an absolute blast there. So anyway, thank you all for watching. We'll be in touch. Keep in touch with the page. Keep your likes, your follows, your shares. It's wonderful. Page is growing. You guys are wonderful people. Wherever this train's going to go, it starts tomorrow night. Let's go Rangers.